Hello newcomers and old, I am Core Scratches, and this'll be a bit different for speed drawing because I am going to be making a comic book page. I've attempted to draw comics many times before and something always goes wrong. Usually it's me losing interest in the thing or confidence in my abilities. Usually for good reason. But this time I thought I would just go for it and not worry about everything that could go wrong over obsess over narrative and structure and so on. Just slap ink on paper and see what comes of it. What a segue! This will be a fan comic showing a alternate, more cinematic take on the backstory of Ink from the DC Beyond universe. In the late 1990s, when Batman the Animated Series came to an end, Warner Brothers Animation decided to create a grittier sequel show without a forerunner in comics. To that end, they locked up Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, and Alan Burnett in a small room with no food or water, and told them they wouldn't be let out until they had something teenage boys would tune in to watch. It paid off with the birth of Batman Beyond, set in a cyberpunk future where Bruce Wayne had given up being Batman, and passed the torch to the young Terry McGinnis. Fortunately, Dini, Timm, and Burnett all had experience enough to make the concept work, and while it only lasted 3 seasons, it left an impression and inspired the Beyond universe in DC Comics. It's interesting that a show inspired comics, I think. It's usually the other way around. Anyway, one of Terry's most recognizable villains is the liquid fetish fuel that is ink. That's I-N-Q-U-E, ink. She's a mutant without a solid form, and the power to shape and shift her body as swiftly as water. Imagine if Clayface met with Catwoman and mud started flying. Ink would be the result. Thief, saboteur, mercenary, terrorist for the highest bidder. Nihilist, sadist, and really scary. Her origin never was explored in the show. All that's said of her is she's the result of a mutagen experiment, but in later comics, she seemed to have grown up on the streets of Gotham before subjecting herself to a corrupt scientist's experimentation as a way to provide for her infant daughter. She later abandoned her daughter in a church and used her powers to make herself a corporate terrorist as a way to provide for her daughter from the shadows. This comic, if I manage to finish it, will largely follow the same plot, but I'm planning to go darker and a bit more mature. There'll also be a few chronological changes, but that's all I'll say on the matter at this time. I hope you'll stick around and watch me work on this thing though. Right now, I'm using a different style from the line art and construction I usually go for, and instead a more painterly procedure where I build everything up in layers of tone. I don't actually know if you can call it painterly when I'm not using colors, but for lack of a better word. It looks a bit shit now, but back in the day I used to be really good at it, if I may be so humble as to brag. The reason I stopped is because I wanted to make comics, and I got into my head the correct way of doing that is to first construct a picture to pinpoint composition and impression, and basically get everything right on the first go. And then I got caught in the trap of mastering steps before making pictures, and I was real neurotic about the whole thing. Now, when I was forced to migrate from Photoshop to Clip Studio Paint, a program which is almost made specifically to make comics, I decided to just go for it and just blotch it all on without worrying about getting it right. It's pretty liberating, and surprisingly quick, for me at least. You may also be wondering why I started on page 2 instead of page 3, and there is a very good reason for that. It didn't occur to me I could record myself making these pages until after the first one was already done. But I will be recording the following ones. And that's pretty much everything I have to say about it at this point. I hope you'll stick around, and if you do, subscribe and click the little bell. Give this video a like if you want to, and I hope you'll see me in the next video.